Do you want to know how to make friends as a homeschooled teenager? I'm Nicholeen Peck and I homeschooled my 4 children. I also am known all over the world for the teaching that I do about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, education, and child development. And I do that through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about making friends as a homeschooler. So in this video, we're going to be talking about ways to find friends for your homeschooled teenager, and then how to go about setting up friendships. It can be difficult to look at a homeschooled child who is struggling to make friends. I know that I had a good friend who had a daughter who struggled making friends, and they were homeschooling. Now, all of the other children in the family did not have any problems making friends, but this child did. In fact, it wasn't just the making of friends, it was just having a friend. And I think a lot of homeschool parents feel like their child needs to have a friend in order to be good at homeschool. Now, I speak at the world's largest homeschool conferences. Shout out to the great homeschool conventions who often have me come and speak at those conferences, as well as many others. I always tell people the same thing. I always say that the friends are not the most important part of the development for the child. In fact, for social development, the friends are not going to teach social. Well, I mean, they can, but is that really where we want them to learn their social? Or do we want them to learn from parents? Or do we want them to learn from the media? Because friends, parents, and media are the 3 ways that a person learns their social skills. Well, I want my children to learn from parents and family. And I always tell people, you know, if my child says, well, I need more friends, and I always say, well, I birthed you friends. Now, I know not everybody has that same circumstance, but I would say that, you know, you have siblings, and if you're not getting along and playing well with them, why are we going to bring other people into the mix? So before you go looking outside of the home, make sure that the relationships inside of the home are doing well. That's really what I'm saying here. Make sure that there is a good bond, good communication, an ability to play and, you know, have fun and joke and laugh within that family unit first, and then you're ready to start bringing other people into the mix and practicing with those other friends and stuff around you. Because that's really what the friends are for. They're for practice. They're not to teach social skills. Friends don't teach social skills very well, usually, because they're the same age oftentimes. So, what does a homeschooled child need out of a friend? They don't need them to be the same age. They don't need them to be the same gender. They don't need them to have the same interests. They just need them to care about and understand their life. So many times, homeschool children make friends with adults, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, people at their church, people in their community. They make friends with lots of people because they have not been trained that their friends have to just be their age. Now, I know when we go to church, sometimes the children are segregated by ages, and so then they might start to learn that. Or maybe if they're in sports or dance groups or something, then they might be segregated by ages sometimes when they're little, and that may make them think that they have to have friends that are their same age. But hopefully, as a homeschooler, if you're getting out into your community, you're meeting other people all of the time, you will not feel like your child has to have a friend that's exactly their same age, because they go and help the little old lady that lives next door do her gardening, and they talk with her all the time, and guess what? She becomes a friend. So I did the scouting program with my boys when they were young. I mean, that was a long time ago. It's a whole different program now. I'm not even sure it fully exists the way it was back in the day. But the Boy Scouts of America program we did. And I remember when my oldest son got his Eagle Scout. Instead of the whole court of honor, this big gymnasium being full of children, it was full of adults. I mean, there were children there too. Don't get me wrong. He did have friends that were children, but there were all these adults. There were neighbors and family members, but also he sang barbershop with a whole group of men that were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they all came to his Eagle Court of Honor. It was really special. It was really powerful. And I remember he said to me, Mom, is it weird that some of my best friends have the median age of 50? And I said, no, Quinn, you're lucky. You have real men that want to be your friend. And they train you and they teach you what it means to be a real man. A lot of young people don't have that. So this brings me to some things that we can do to help our children develop. Now I'm going to talk about how to help them develop friendships with peers that are similar in age. But first, let's talk about really developing that friendship within the family. So a boy and a father, hopefully, once they hit the teen years, are doing a lot of things together. Maybe they develop a hobby that they share in common, something they like to study or do, and on a weekly basis, or maybe even bi-weekly basis, they do an activity together. And they associate with other people in the community who are doing that too. So that's what happened with my son and barbershop singing. The same thing happened with my daughter and vocal a cappella harmony. I also sang in a group with her because she wanted to do that. My other daughter wanted to do genealogy research. And so we got together with people who did genealogy research. My other son wanted to build things and construct things. And so he worked with his dad on construction projects, and he even got into real estate. There is an entire neighborhood that is developed because my son, at age like 13, found a piece of land, marketed it to a developer, and got a whole neighborhood developed there. So learning real skills, working with real adults is awesome social training for their future. All of my children are very social. They're very successful socially. They have lots of friends and neighbors and colleagues they get along with. They are not isolated. And my 4 children that were my biological children were homeschooled the entire time, from K through 12. Now, did they ever do anything with the children at the school? Yes, they did. And we're going to talk about that. But first, let's touch on this piece for how to develop friendships within the homeschool community. If you've already subscribed to this channel, then you know I have a lot of videos on here about homeschool and homeschool success. But one thing that I mention periodically in these videos is that when you are creating a social group, you want to become social friends with full families, not just individuals. So don't just go looking for an individual that's the same age as your child. Instead, go looking for an entire family that has shared beliefs and values and standards as your family. And if you can find a couple of those, maybe 3 families or so, it doesn't even matter if they all have children to match the ages of your children. It'd be nice if they did, and that would be really cool if you could make that work. But even if it's just kind of close, or even your children are a little older and theirs are younger, so there's kind of like a cousin type feeling to it, that also works. It's just people to practice the social skills with, to talk with and learn with, people who care about what you're doing. It is important for a person who's homeschooled to know other people who homeschool if it's at all possible. Whether those people are in person or online, if they can know somebody else who's homeschooling, that's beneficial, because then there's somebody else who understands their life and they recognize they're not alone, that there's other people doing these things too. So then you go make these family groups and you get together on a regular basis, and then you start creating family book discussion groups, family geography clubs, family Lego clubs, family science projects, night, family Valentine's Day parties, family Christmas around the world parties, whatever. You get together and you do these things with these groups. So we started with about 3 or 4 families, and then it grew actually to be a group of maybe around 6 or 7 families that we got together with on more of a regular basis. And then there were the ones that were outside of that. We didn't get together with them unless it was a full homeschool group activity, but they were still considered friends. You just can't maintain more than probably 5 or 6 families when you're trying to keep up with all these families and do things, go on camping trips together, beach journeys together. There's a lot of fun things that you can do. So let's talk about the other children in the community that aren't homeschooling. How do we become friends with them? Sometimes they are biased against your child. I know that can be a thing. I remember when my oldest son was starting homeschooling, he was probably kindergarten or 1st grade, and he had some little friends in the neighborhood. I remember they were all playing outside. My son came in kind of sad and dejected, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, they're just being mean to me." And I said, "Why? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, because I homeschool." And I said, "Oh, I'm sure they're not mean to you because you homeschool." And he said, "No, they are. because they said, let's play cops and robbers. If you're a homeschooler, then you have to be the cop and everybody else can be the robbers. And so I can't ever not be the cop. I have to try to get everybody all the time. So basically they were putting him, in a box and making him different, and he didn't like the feel of that. And I know that that can happen. Now with my other children, I have to say that really didn't happen that much. It was mostly just with him. And I think because it was so new, the children didn't know how to handle it. After they'd known our family for a while, they were like, the Peck's just homeschool, that's what it is. And they would come over and play, and they knew we could play all the time. In fact, they often got very jealous of a lot of the things we would do. We'd be like, oh, sorry we weren't home, we were at this water park, or sorry, we were at this museum, or we went on this trip. And they're like, well, we're doing school and they're doing that. And well, that is school. We just get to go see things. They didn't. That's just how it goes. But we still made friends with them. Church groups, sports teams, dance groups can all help with making friends. And you don't have to declare where you go to school. Just make friends with somebody, get to know them. And then later, if you want to talk about where you go to school, then that's fine. And that's an okay thing. But hopefully, if they meet someone who is at the public school, that they can say, oh yeah, well, I actually homeschool. Nowadays, that's not as rare. It's not as rare. It's not as weird as it used to be, especially after COVID. So many people just started homeschooling after that it's pretty common. You could always just say to the person, I hope you won't hold that against me, because I'd really like to be your friend. Just teach your child how to be a little bit more assertive in the way that they communicate about it, and probably they won't have a problem. Homeschooling was one of the best things that I ever did. It created such strong bonds in our family. My children are just the best of friends with each other. I love seeing that even into their adult years. It just continues. They have such a great connection with each other and with me and my husband as well. And I absolutely love that. And I know that it was because we learned everything together all the time. So I hope you enjoy your homeschool journey. You probably will do a lot better in your homeschool journey if you don't have to deal with tantrums, attitude problems, out of control behaviors, and stuff like that. This whole channel is here for you to help you with that type of thing, but there is one video in particular that I would definitely recommend. In fact, it's a class that I'm often asked to teach at homeschool conferences, and it's called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. It definitely relates to having a better homeschool day, so click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.